Today we're going to talk you through everything in my collection, why I got it, why I like it, and why hopefully I'm be hanging on to these pieces for a while. Today I'm the Critical Gentleman. My first mechanical watch is this Tissot. Now, I got this watch before I knew anything about mechanical watches, before I was even into the hobby. It was a gift, actually, for my college graduation from my grandparents. I'm very close with them, and they wanted to get me something special, and I actually picked out this watch myself, having no prior knowledge about mechanical watches or luxury watches, and even now that I've learned a little bit more and my collection has certainly grown, I actually still really like this watch. It's got a really lovely dial, you know, that textured waffle pattern. I like the fact that I went with the black dial over the white dial. You know, in retrospect, I wish the watch had a black date window, but it's really just a small thing, and I think it's really a nice watch with a great size. It's, I believe, 39 millimeters, which is about the maximum for my wrist size that I can get away with, but it's really nice. And it's, of course, got an excellent movement. I believe it is the 2824 ETA movement, so really a workhorse automatic, you know, excellent movement. And just really, overall, a really nice dress watch. I wear it with a suit. I pretty much save it for special occasions just because it was a gift. But also, you know, when I do occasionally have to wear a tuxedo, sometimes I'll wear this watch, although more traditionally you would want a dial with either white or silver color as opposed to black. The next watch that I got was years later when I first started to become interested in mechanical watches, which is this Omega Seamaster Deville. Now, this watch was my first buy, the first thing I bought myself, you know, when I started to really become interested in mechanical watches. And at the time, I wasn't so big into vintage. It just happened to be that vintage watches I thought were a great value. You know, this watch is from 1966. It's solid 14 karat gold. And I paid under $400 for this watch, and I thought that was a really fantastic bargain. This particular watch, at the time I didn't really know the difference between the Seamaster models. This is actually a smaller variety. They call it a mid-size or a boy's size. It's only 32 millimeters. Most of them are 34 millimeters, and it has the 670 caliber movement as opposed to the 550 series movements that are in the bigger ones. Now, some people would say that that's a detriment. You know, the larger movement is more collectible. Not a big deal for me. My wrist is very small, 6 inches, so the size doesn't bother me. And to be honest, a automatic movement in 17 millimeters width, which is the size of the movement, it's just an impressive feat of engineering. You know, to say that it's a lady's caliber inside my watch does not offend me, does not bother me. The next watch I got after that was this Heuer Carrera. Now, this is the 1964 re-edition, and in my personal opinion, the best watch Heuer ever made. Now, of course, I say that because I own it, but really the reason why is because it is a totally faithful reproduction of the original 1964 Carrera, with one exception, and that exception is it does not say the word Carrera on the dial. But I'm willing to forgive that because it also does not say tag on the dial. It just says Heuer, and that's fine with me. But the dimensions are the same, 35 millimeters. It's got the faceted case lugs. It's the same thickness. They went with a manually wound movement, which is wonderful. You know, it's not the Valjoux 72, but that's not made anymore. So they used a Lemania 1873. That's the same base movement as in the Speedmaster, the Omega Moonwatch, and I think that it's an extremely good movement. It's you know, arguably a higher grade than some of the ETA stuff Tag is putting in their everyday production watches, and it makes it a little bit special. So because of the loyalty to the original model in terms of the size and the dimensions and the aesthetic and everything being almost the same as the original Carrera, this is probably one of my favorite watches in my collection, and it's actually become collectible in and of itself, you know. Okay, so after the Heuer came the Breitling that you see all the way on the bottom. Now, this was a really cool watch. Another one that I don't think will ever leave my collection. These were only produced for 4 years, from 1992 to 1996, and this is called the Navitimer 92. It was the 50th anniversary of, I believe, the Breitling Chronomat, I think, that came out in 1942. And it's got, you know, you look at the bezel and it doesn't look quite like a normal Navitimer bezel. I get this comment from people a lot. They say, wow, it's not nearly as busy as the Navitimer usually is, and that's because this bezel is called the Type 42 bezel, and it's harkens back to the bezel used on the original chronomat in 1942. It's doesn't have quite as much text on it. It's a little thinner, and it's actually inverted. So if you don't know how to use one of these Navitimer bezels, you kind of need a whole video just to explain that. But basically, the gist of it is it's a slide rule, and you rotate it and do your calculations based on the numbers on the bezel versus the numbers on the dial, and this works inverted. So whereas you might be doing multiplication with the regular Navitimer bezel, you would have to do the reverse process here. You'd have to divide in order to get the same result. So again, it would take a while to explain, and to be honest, I learned it once and then promptly forgot. So maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. But for now, the reason that this Navitimer is a little bit less busy than the ones coming out today are because this is an original style bezel, as this was an anniversary edition watch. It's 38 millimeters, so it's smaller than a lot of the Navitimers around. But again, I have a 6-inch wrist. I like the 38 millimeter size. It's perfect. Any bigger, and I wouldn't love the watch as much. It's also got, the Arabic numerals with the tritium lume. It actually still glows very faintly. It's from the 90s, so it's probably at the relative end of its half-life, but there is a little bit of afterglow still left, if you're really in total darkness. This has the 2892 ETA movement with the DD chrono module on top. I don't know how to say the company name, so I'm just going to abbreviate DD. But that's the stopwatch, the chronograph attachment, the module that goes onto the 2892 movement. And that's why if you turn this watch sideways, you can see the pushers in the crown are misaligned. That's because the base movement is on the bottom, the chronograph is on the top, so you can't have them even. And that's actually a good telltale way to see if that's the layout of your chronograph. The Speedmaster Reduced uses this, some Tag Heuers use this configuration, and you can always spot it based on the alignment of the crown and the pushers. Okay, let's see, what do we have next? After that, I got the Rolex, the first Rolex, the silver dial Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Now, this is a reference 1002, and this particular one has a 1560 caliber movement. That's the earlier movement that beats at 18,000 beats per hour. I believe it came out in 1959 and was produced through 1965 when they replaced it with the 1570, which bumped it up to 19,800 beats per hour. But nonetheless, it is a chronometer movement. It's so these use the same case as the Air King 5500, which is a 34 millimeter case, but it uses the chronometer grade movement, and I did actually have this watch serviced, and it was a little expensive, but it is running within chronometer certification specification, and I wear this watch a lot actually because it's been serviced and I know how reliable it is. After that, I went for this Bulova wrist alarm. I really truly think that Bulova represents an excellent value in the vintage market at the moment. They're not terribly sought after, and you can get even really nice chronograph pieces, for a relative bargain. And I just loved the blue. I can't call it a sunburst because even though it is it's metallic and reflective and it has that texture, it doesn't emanate from the center and go outward radially. It's horizontal, so I'll just call it a brushed metallic finish. It is blue. Depending on the angle, it can look as dark as black or of course as bright as almost turquoise. But it's really nice. It's got the mechanical, manual wind mechanical alarm. So the second crown sets the alarm, which is this big blue hour. It kind of looks like a GMT hand, but it's the third hand. It's the alarm hand, not GMT. And you set the time that you want the alarm to go off, and you wind it, and the alarm will only trigger once per wind. So meaning as soon as the alarm stops going off, you have to wind it again and reset it. And it is loud and it vibrates. It's got this metallic hammer inside the movement that slams against a metal post on the inside of the case back, and it causes the thing to vibrate and shake and buzz. It's really remarkable. It does also have the date complication, but I really just love this blue dial, the contrast with the light blue alarm marks, and then of course the yellowing tritium lume around the edges. I like these fat markers. Just everything about it really nice. It's got that 70s style case. After the Bulova, I actually bought a moon watch, which you don't see here because I traded it for this Speedmaster First Omega in Space. Now, my first video actually was about this watch, so if you want some details, feel free to check that out. But this is probably the watch I wear the most right now. It's less than a year old. I traded my moon watch for it. I think this is a really great piece, and it makes great use of that domed sapphire crystal and the 1861 movement over the 321, which was originally in the 2998. But it keeps that straight lug case and the absent crown guards, the smaller pushers, the alpha hands, the stick chrono hands. All that cool stuff is consistent with the original 2998. Even the applied logo, it looks a little different, and I'm told that it's actually silver, not gold, so that's just a little correction from my original video. But I really love the watch. It's great. It is a 39.7 millimeter case with the manual wind 1861 movement. Lug width is 19 millimeters. And then for, of course, more details, you can check out my full review of this watch. All right, last but not least is this newest addition to my collection, and that is another Rolex Oyster Perpetual. This one's from 1967, and it has the most gorgeous blue dial that I have seen. Again, it's the horizontal brushed metallic blue finish, not a sunburst, but I really, really like it. And it's also got these sort of odd markers. I don't know what to call these. I don't know if there's a term for it, but it has the lume pip around the outside of each marker. But then it's also got, I think it's lume because it's got patina, it's turning yellow, this lume strip also in the middle of the marker. And this watch is in such good shape. I just put this new strap on. This you'll remember the Color Reb strap I got for the last one, the mud brown. Well, this is the exact same strap, except now it's in rust, and I think it complements the blue dial nicely. So I kind of have this pair going here, and I think my collection's in a nice healthy spot. I don't really see myself adding too many more pieces. You'll notice the one thing missing from my collection is any dive watch. I don't have a single one. So if you guys have any good ideas for a sub 40 millimeter dive watch that I could add to the collection, let me know. I really love the Longines Legend Diver. It's just too big, 42 mil with a 52 millimeter lug to lug size. I just can't wear it. It's just too big. But I really love that. It's probably one of my favorite modern production watches out right now, actually. If you have any ideas where I could go with that and actually get a watch that'll fit me, I'm all ears. So let me know in the comments if you got any suggestions. Otherwise, please like or subscribe. It really helps. It's encouraging. I have 14 subscribers as of the posting of this video. So, one more. It says to me, I see every number go up. It ticks up, and it says, keep making them. We like the stuff. So, if you like the video, I want to make more of these. I want to keep coming out with stuff. So please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And leave me a comment or send me a message. If you have any thoughts or questions or suggestions, I'm all ears. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and take it easy.